Very good morning. My name is Sandeep. I am working as assistant professor in Department of Information Technology of MLR Institute of Technology, Hyderabad. So we are discussing today about the Python programming language. So what is the Python programming language? How it will be useful to develop for the applications or frameworks? What are the frameworks is there, and what is the differences? So this is the overview of the presentation. See, first the topic is here. Before going to discussion about the Python programming language, we have to know about what is an object-oriented programming. Whenever we are discussing about that object-oriented programming, and then the differences between the OOPS and procedure-oriented programming, and then object-oriented methodologies, class and objects, Python fundamentals, then differences between Python, Java, and C in programmatical way, and how the author or name that Python as a Python for the programming for that language, and Python applications, and how the Python program is developed, and differences between the Java and Python and C and Python. So first here, object oriented programming. So what is this object oriented programming? Then what is an object oriented programming means? First of all, that it has a structure. That structure contains class, objects, methods and attributes. This is the structure of an object oriented programming. Object oriented programming methodologies is different from this structure of object oriented programming. For example, here if you see what is an object oriented programming means, it is a way of computer programming using the idea of objects to represent data and methods. It means if you are going to develop an application by using these object oriented programming, then we have to define the objects. It means if any application behavior and structure representation depends upon the objects. By using these objects, we can represent the data of that application. Not only the data and also behavior of the application. And here the main point in object oriented programming is reusable code. That means code reusability is there, and also reusability components is also there. So two things here there we can approach for developing an applications by using code reusability and then reusability components. So for object oriented is what? It is represented an object. Totally it is used to representation of an object. By using that objects, we can represent the data and methods. So what is the advantage of these object oriented programming means? So mainly what? Code reusability. So code reusability is one of the important factor to reduce the complexity of the applications. So if you see here the structure of object oriented programming, it contains what? Classes, objects, methods and attributes. So we will discuss what is class and object in next slide. So now before that one, we have to know what is the differences between the object oriented and procedure oriented programming. Object oriented and procedure oriented both are different programming approaches and both have different programming languages. For example, if you see first one, in object oriented programming language, the instructions are going to compile from from bottom to up. That means it is going to compile the from bottom to up approach. And in procedure oriented programming language, it is going to top down approach. And also we have some differences between the object oriented programming language and procedure oriented programming language. For example, if you see in point of view security, for in object first of all we will see the procedure oriented programming. In procedure oriented programming languages, this is also known as functional oriented programming language. First of all, in definition point of view, what is the differences between the object oriented and procedure oriented? For example, there is a problem and the problem is divided into subtask. Each and every subtask is considered as a functions or procedures. It means that is called procedure oriented programming. And coming to this object oriented programming, there is a problem of an application. The problem is divided into subtask, and each and every subtask is considered as a class in object oriented programming language. So in procedure, the subtask is considered as a function, is also known as procedures. In object oriented programming language, each and every subtask is considered as a class. So this is the difference. Then this is the difference in point of view definition. And then technical point of view, in technical point, what is the exact difference between the object oriented and procedure oriented means? For example, if you see in security point of view of procedure oriented, the problem is represented as a functions. For example, in a program of procedure oriented, there are 4 functions. This is F1 function, F2 function, F3 function and F4 function. Now these 4 functions are going to share the data by using a global database. This is called what? Global database. It means F1 are going to store the data in this database, and F2 is also storing the data in this database. F3 is also same, F4 is also same. At this time, what will be happen? It means that F1 function can access F2 function data, F4 function data and F3 function data, and also F2 function can access F1 function data, F3 function data, F4 function data. So this is the lack in the procedure oriented programming language. This is one of the limitations or drawback in procedure oriented, because of it is all functions of the application are sharing the global database. But in object oriented programming language is not like that one, because of in object oriented programming language, if you take Java programming language or Python programming language, see, if you want to develop any program, we are going to first define a class. For each and every class, okay, one object will be created. For example, there is 2 classes of an application. So, or 3 classes. So, 3 classes. For each and every class, it means there is a problem, and this problem is divided into subtask, and each subtask is considered as a class. For each and every class, what we are doing in object oriented programming, we are creating an objects. So now what will be happen? See, object represents what? Representing memory. So for class 1 is a separate object, for class 2 is a separate object. It means for each and every class, it contains what? Individual objects, individual memory representations. At this time, what will be happen? Class 1 cannot access the class 2 data, and class 1 and class 2 data cannot access class 1 and class 3 data. So it means here in object oriented programming language, the data has more secure. It means in object oriented programming language gives the priority more for the data comparatively in the procedure oriented programming language, because in procedure oriented programming language data has low priority, functions has high priority. But in object oriented programming language, data has high priority, and what classes, that means classes has less priority, that means objects. So this is the main differences between the object oriented and procedure oriented. And third here is, in procedure oriented programming languages, there are a lot of examples are there. For example, in object oriented, that is Java, right? So Python, C++, right? And even we can consider scripting languages also. Coming to this procedure oriented, C, okay, so Pascal. So like that one, we have examples are there in procedure oriented programming language. So anyway, this is the differences between about what? Procedure oriented and object oriented. Even, right? Next, here I am going to discuss about what? The methodologies of object oriented programming language. Here in object oriented programming language, we have there are the core concepts are there. Among that one, the first one is class, second is object, inheritance, polymorphism, encapsulation, abstraction. These are the core concepts of object oriented programming. We can say like this one, these are the main features of object oriented programming language, main features. So now we'll discuss one by one. For example, if you see the first concept of the first methodology of class, what is the class? A class is a collection of objects, or you can say it is a blueprint of objects. Clearly is mentioned here, a class is a collection of objects, or we can say what? It is a blueprint of objects defining the common attributes and behavior. Defining the common attributes and behavior. It means a class is a logical entity which contains what? Which contains the data by representing the objects. So finally, a class is a blueprint which by using that blueprint we can create any number of objects. By using the blueprint we can create any number of objects. So that is the first thing. Here what is this is, for example, how can we create a class in Python? Here the example I took what? In Python. By using class keyword. By using class is the keyword and the class 1 is the name of the class. And for example here say class and then test parenthesis and then colon. Here class is the keyword and test is the class name and followed by parenthesis and then colon. So this is the way of defining a class in Python of object oriented programming language. Now what is this class contains? Class, see in this diagram you will see class contains fields and methods. Fields here is nothing but we can say attributes. What? We can say attributes. And for each and every class we can create any number of objects. We can create any number of objects. By using these objects only we can represent the data. Okay. And now what is an object means? From here only, here for each and object is an what? Physical entity which represents the memory. Which represents the memory. So that is the first point about an object. An object is a physical entity which represents what? An memory. The second point here is object is represent the what? Behavior and structure of an applications. The behavior and structure of an application. It means it contains three properties. First one is what? Behavior and then property and then identity. So this is the three main things about the object. So first one is behavior and second one is property and third one is identity. For each and every object there is a unique identity will be considered. Now behavior and property, how can we represent this behavior and property of an application? Means by using an object. So next here in programming point of view, the behavior we can represent by using methods and the properties can represent by using variables. We can say variables. This property is nothing but what? Attributes. So in programmatical point of view, the behavior and properties are represented by using methods and variables. So this is the class and object. Next here we have next another thing, there are what? Inheritance concepts. Inheritance, you know, the inheritance concept is what? There is a two classes. Now for the two, that for example class 1 and class 2. Class 1 and class 2. These two classes are going to access the data each other. How it is possible means whenever we are making the relationship between the two classes, which relationship we have to make between the two classes means parent and child relationship. For example here class 1 is the parent class and class 2 is the child class. At that time what will be happen? Whenever we are making the relationship between two classes, that is parent and child relationship, then the child class can access all the properties and behavior of the class 1. That is called inheritance concept. And this inheritance concept is main advantage. For this inheritance concept, advantages is code reusability, and by using these inheritance concept, we can achieve runtime polymorphism. Right? Anyway, the next here is polymorphism concept. Poly means, here what is a polymorphism? Poly means what? Many. Morphism means many forms. So polymorphism is a Greek word. Okay, so if you define these word means many forms. What is this purpose of this? How these our concept will be useful in object oriented programming languages? See, polymorphism is nothing but what? Many forms. How can we useful this concept to develop an application? I will tell you one example. Here the example is, if you take an Aadhaar card. If you take an Aadhaar card application, it means you are going to download an Aadhaar card application. Now, you can download an Aadhaar card by using either virtual ID of your Aadhaar or enrollment number of your Aadhaar or Aadhaar card number. That is Aadhaar card or Aadhaar number, we can say. It means we can download the same Aadhaar card by using virtual ID or enrollment ID or Aadhaar card. It means what will be happen here? The same data is exhibiting in these three forms. Whenever if you are going to enter virtual ID or enrollment ID or other, the same data are going to downloading, right? That is other data of yours. So how it is achieved means by using polymorphism concept. So polymorphism means a technical definition here is one data can exhibit in many forms. So that is called polymorphism concept. Next, coming to this encapsulation. Encapsulation is mainly, this concept depends upon the access modifiers. So we have that access modifiers, that is public, private, default and protected. So based on this one, because of this encapsulation concept, we can provide the accessibility of the class members. That is called encapsulation. And what is the abstraction? Abstraction is nothing but the main concept. Abstraction is nothing but what? Highlighting the services and hiding the implementation details. Highlighting the functionalities and hiding the implementation details. For example, if you go to ATM, in that ATM on the screen, we are going to see what? Only the functionalities or the services of that application. What are the services of that ATM application? Withdraw, deposit, like that one. So just it means it is on the screen, only the service is visible. But implementation is not visible because of that is hiding that implementation. How it is achieved means by using abstraction. Here the implementation details is what? For example, if you want to withdraw the money, so then you just click on that withdraw service and then you enter that amount, for example 1000 rupees. Now what will be happen in backend, that is implementation, that you first it is going to check whether the entered amount is less than the balanced amount or not. So that is called implementation details, and these implementation details will be hid from the user. Only the services will be highlighted to the user. So this is achieved by using the abstraction concept. So abstraction is nothing but what? Highlighting the services or functionalities but hiding the implementation details. So these are called object oriented methodologies. So next one here is Python fundamentals. Yeah, because of up to now we discussed object oriented programming. Python is one of the core important programming language in object oriented programming. So what is the first point here is Python is a general purpose of high level programming language. Python is a general purpose high level programming language. What is this high level programming language? If you take Java is also high level programming language, C also high level programming language. So similarly here Python is also high level programming language. So high level programming language means that language can understand by the humans but cannot understand by the machines. So that is called high level programming language. So that's why this Python is also high level programming language. Next, who was developed this Python? The Python was developed by Guido van Rossum in 1989 while working at National Research Institute in Netherlands. So while doing his work, he developed what? 1989. Who was developed means Guido van Rossum in 1989. Of course, he developed in 1989, but officially that the Python programming language available to the public in the year of 1999, February 28th. That's why we can say the official date of the Python programming language is February 28th, 1991. And why we have to learn this Python programming language? Means because even though if anyone could not learn that Java programming language or C programming language, so Python is recommended as the first programming language for the beginners. Python is recommended as first programming language for the beginners. So that much that much easiness is there in Python programming language in the point of view syntaxes and in the point of view declarations like that one. For example, we will make the differences between the Python, Java and C. Generally, I need to print just hello world by using Java. So in Java, if you want to develop at least a small applications also, definitely you would define a class. That's why I define a class and the class name is test. And we know in Java, the execution starts from main method. Without main method, the execution could not be started. So I could not start it of that application. That's why I declared that main method, that is public static void main, and this is called command line argument, string array args. Now we have to print what? Hello world statement, just hello world. So for that purpose, I call the println method by using out variable from the system class, that is system.out.println, and then printing the hello world. So totally how many lines is required? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 lines is required just to print hello world. Now coming to next in C. In C what? This is we have to define what? Header files, and that is hash include studio.h, standard input output header file, and then main function. Because of this is the C, right? That's why we are calling it is a function. And then in this function we have to print, that is printf, and then hello world. So how many lines is required? So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 lines is required. So in Java 7 lines, in C that is 5 lines. But in Python, see, just only 1 line is required. Just print hello world. That's enough. So that's why Python is recommended to learn for the beginners. It is very easy. Just because of to print hello world, we can see the differences between this Python and Java and then C. So these are all the differences between the programmatical differences between Python, Java and C. That much easiness is there. See, syntax is very easy comparatively with Java and C. Next here we have to know, this is very interesting concept in this discussion, naming of Python. So we know who was developed means Guido van Rossum. So we know that year in 1989. But how he is named? If you see Java is a product of T, right? Similarly, here for this language, how the author or the developer named as a Python means his favorite show, one of the favorite show is the complete Monty's Python Circus. This is his favorite show, which was displayed in BBC channel from 1969 to 1974. Some interesting concept, right? So from this he took the Python's word. So and then he kept the name as for this programming language as Python. So this is just one of the interesting concept in Python. Next, how Python programming language developed by the Guido van Rossum. Guido developed this Python language by taking the features of all programming languages. It means he took the features from different programming languages. For example, if you see here, functional programming language. See, functional programming features taken from C programming language. Similarly, object-oriented programming features taken from C++ because of C++ is also object-oriented programming language. Scripting language features taken from what? Perl and shell script. And this also one of the programming language, that is modular programming features from which language? Modular 3. So like this one, he took the different features from different languages and developed the language and named it as Python. And you know, the Python programming language syntaxes, standard Python programming language syntax was taken from ABC language and C. He taken the syntax, he made the syntax of standard Python programming language from ABC and C programming. That's why the standard programming language is also known as C Python. C Python. We can say C Python, not Python, but we are calling Python. But really it called what? C Python. So like that one we have different flavors of Python, J Python. Like that one we have Ruby Python. So like that one we have different flavors. Anyway, so this is the how the Python program developed by the Guido van Rossum. Next one, where by using this Python programming language, which type of applications we can develop. So we can develop desktop applications, we can develop web applications. See, what is means web applications means, like you know, for example, if you see Google, Yahoo. So these are called, by using these Python programming language, we can develop the type of applications. And if you see, we can use these database applications for developing database application. What is database applications? For example, if you see IRCTC is one of the database application, and even Swiggy is also one of the database applications. Like that one we have so many number of database applications we can develop by using this Python programming language. And we can also use this Python programming language for network programming. Yes, how? You know, in networking, that packets, that means first whenever we send the data are going to divide the packets, and the packets are going to reach the destination address. So how it will be done means, totally it is done by the programmatical only. So for that type of things also we can use this Python programming language. Even we can use for developing games, and mainly Python programming is why this much popular means because of we can use for data analysis applications, for machine learning applications, for developing AI applications like ChatGPT and AI tools, and even for IoT, that means Internet of Things. So that is the Python applications. Next, we have to know mainly differences between Java and Python. Why we have to know means, whenever we know the differences between the Java and Python, it will be easy to understand because of both are object oriented programming languages only. See, Java and Python both are object oriented programming languages. But what is the differences between the Java and Python? We have to know compulsory. So first of all here, see, Java is object oriented programming language and Python is also object oriented programming language. But in Java, functional programming features are introduced in Java 8.0 version by using lambda expressions. So by using lambda expressions are very that is useful to implement this functional program that is introduced in Java. But in Python, whenever it is released at the first, it blends the functional programming features with object oriented programming. That's why Python is make functional programming with object oriented programming features. So that is the two differences between the Java and Python. First difference, in Java programs are verbose. Verbose means, you know, Java programs contain huge number of lines, more number of lines comparative with this Python. See, Python programs are concise and compact. A big program can be written using very less number of lines. So Java programs are having more number of lines comparatively with this Python. And next here is Java language is static. Why we are saying static? Because of, if you see this point, we have to declare compulsory the data types. What is this means? For example, see, in Java, int a equals to 10. Int a equals to 10. Here the a is the variable and int is the data type and 10 is the value. So it means if the variable is declared with which data type? Int data type, that is integer. Now can I store the float value in this variable? No, it is not possible. If you are going to try to store the float value, then compulsory compiler will get what? Error. It shows error. So it means it is static. We cannot change, we cannot store the different values. That's why the Java programming language is weak and static typal language. But in Python, if you see, it is a dynamic typal language, and that's why we can say it is a strong typal language. Because of in Python programming language, a equals to 10. We no need to define the data types before the variable, and we can say we can store the same 10.43f, for example. Just this means this is the float value. It means here the a is what? Behaving as a integer type, and here the a is behaving as a float type. That's why it is a dynamically typal language. Dynamically typal language. So, and one more thing here is, in Python, the data type, sir, for example, in Python, the compiler or the Python virtual machine decides the data type at runtime. Python virtual machine decides the data type for a variable at runtime. So that's why it is what? Dynamic typal language. We can say strongly typal language. Next here, Java is a compiler language and JVM is the core thing used in the Java. Here Python is an interpreted language. It means it is going to execute the statements line by line. Next, Java uses brace. For example, in Java we are going to, for example, class test. So and then we can what? Use what? Braces. But in Python we have to use indentation. Indentation means space. For example, if you see def m1 function, for here we can write print hello. It means this is what? Indentation. This is what? Space. By default, that indentation contains 4 space characters. So that is called indentation. It means in Java we have to giving what? Braces. In Python we have to follow indentation. Next, here main thing, Java needs 10 lines of code from a file to read, but Python need only 2 lines. Next here, JVM run codes and converts byte code into machine. JVM run codes and converts byte, but here in Python it translates directly mission level code. So that is also one of the differences. Next here you see frameworks are there in Java. So Spring, Blade, Hibernate are the most popular ones, popular frameworks in Java. But in Python we have the frameworks, that is Django, Flask, which is used to develop the web applications. And here we have the tools for machine learning, Sveka, MOA, Deep Learning 4J, Mallet, and so on, etc. And here TensorFlow and Torque. Next, here we have what? Some engines, that is Panda 3-dimensionals and JK engines. And which companies are going to use Java mostly means Netflix, Instagram, and Spotify, that is music applications. And here Google, Dropbox, and Uber. Even YouTube also is using now Python, right, for recommendations purpose. Next here main thing here is Java. Java partially supports multiple inheritance through the interface. Actually Java does not support the inheritance, but through inheritance it will be support. In Python it supports directly multiple inheritance. So that is the main differences between Java and Python. Next here, what is the differences between C and Python? This C is what? Procedure oriented, and Python is what? Object oriented. Now C is what? Just general purpose programming language. It is extremely popular, simple and flexible, and it is what? Mission independent structured programming language, which is used to what? Develop various applications. So both C and Python both are what? general purpose languages only, and C is also interpreter, Python is also interpreter. But what is the difference is C contains pointers, Python contains objects. That is the differences between the C and Python. Next, comparatively here C programming is also statically typed language, but on other hand Python is, as we discussed, dynamically typed language. C language contains what? Limited number of build. It means for C programming language, the library is what? Not rich comparatively with Python. So that is the one of the another difference between C and Python. So that's why C language has a limited number of built-in functions, but in Python has a large library. We can see so many modules are there in the Python library, and mainly here is, as mentioned in the above, what? C is compiled language, that's why compiled directly to machine code and executed directly by the CPU. On the other hand, Python is what? First compiled to a bytecode and then interpreted by the C program. So that is the differences between the C and Python. See, in Python what we are doing? First compile the bytecode and then interpreted by the C program. That's why, just as we discussed now, Python is known as C Python. C Python. Okay, so that is the one of the differences between the C and Python. Next, so here the summary is there. So up to discussion of this topic, Python is based on this topic, Python is very easy to learn for the beginners. We seen the differences between the different programming languages, and the standard Python programming language is known also Python. Here the Python is used what? Google, Dropbox and Uber, and also Python. Next, in comparatively the Python comparatively other programming languages, the Python programming language contains more number of modules. It means it has a rich library, and it is a dynamically typed language. And it main thing is what? Python virtual machine. That is, we can say in shortcut, that is PVM. So Python contains, in Java what we have? JVM, and in Python what we have? PVM. That's it, Python virtual machine. So, and then what? Here dynamically typed means, it means A equals to 10, as we discussed just now. So it means here what? The variable A and 10 value is stored. So when the data type is decided for this variable means at runtime. At runtime the PVM will be decided, and in Java we have to follow indentation instead of curly braces. So this is a short summary about this topic. So thank you.